The liver is an accessory organ to digestion, and it is a very large organ that sits right up underneath your diaphragm. So the one of the major functions of the liver is the production of bile. So we have the production of bile. And bile is actually a very complicated substance that has lots of different things in it. But the bile has bile salts, and these specifically aid in the emulsification, which is a type of mechanical breakdown. So this is a mechanical digestion, even though it is a chemical, bile salts. So when we talk about this, we can have, like, for example, a large fat globule. And what bile does, and specifically these bile salts, is they break them down into small fat droplets. So the bile is stored in the gallbladder. So let's look at an image of this. So the liver contains cells called hepatocytes. So hepatocytes produce bile. And that's in the liver. The bile is then stored in the gallbladder. And it is released into the duodenum, which is the first part of the small intestine. So here you can see it's green. Bile does kind of have a green tint. It has also pigments in it. So for example, bilirubin is a pigment that is found in bile, and it's one of the pigments that causes the discoloration or the coloration, the brown coloration of feces. So here we can see that it is released. It has a duct. We have a bile duct, and it's released into the duodenum, and that helps to start to break the fat into smaller droplets so that it can be broken down by pancreatic enzymes that then digest the fat. So this increases the surface area over which digestion can take place. So let's look at some other functions of the liver besides the production of bile. It actually has a lot of other functions, some of which are related to digestion and some of which are not. So one really important function that I'm just going to list here is that it produces clotting factors. And these clotting factors are important in the blood. So they give the blood the ability to clot. It also stores glucose as glycogen. So it stores this, and then the glycogen can be broken down, and glucose can be released into the blood when we need it to produce energy. The other thing that it does is it stores iron. So it's high in iron because it recycles some of the components of hemoglobin. And it also functions to detoxify substances that are absorbed in the blood, specifically from the small intestine. So if we look at the fundamental structures that allow for this to happen, we talk about what is called the liver lobules. So let's look at a diagram of a liver lobule. So a lobule is just the really small part of the liver, and it's actually microscopic. So the lobules are hexagonal in shape. and you wouldn't see them unless you looked underneath a microscope. Hexagonal means that they are six-sided. So you need to be familiar with this diagram. This diagram shows blood that is nutrient rich. So the portal vein here is nutrient rich. It is actually coming from the small intestine. So nutrients are absorbed from the small intestine, they're transported to the liver, and the liver functions to take out the glucose. It might take out amino acids to produce those clotting factors. And then it also detoxifies substances. So blood comes in here, and then it passes through these little channels. And we have those channels are lined with hepatocytes. And then the hepatocytes modify the blood. And then we have the central canal or the central vein where this goes back out and connects to the vein that then goes to the heart to then go out to the lungs to get oxygen-rich blood. Now, the liver requires a lot of energy, and so that is the artery. So this portal triad consists of an artery with oxygen-rich blood that is going to feed the hepatocytes, the vein, which is oxygen-poor blood coming from the small intestine, and then we have the bile ducts, which are producing, or excuse me, which carry bile. So the bile ducts are carrying the bile that are produced by the hepatocytes. And so this is like a little factory or working machine, actually, right? So it has these little subcomponents. And this is how the liver is able to filter the blood.